What's going on, Algebra 2? So we've been talking about solving rational equations. The whole chapter is on rational expressions and equations. Rational means fractions. So let's jump into some problems. I'll do a few, you do a few, and we'll check your work tomorrow. So I'm trying to get my denominators the same. This has got a 6, this has got a 2, and this has got a 1. So it looks like my greatest common multiple would be 6. I can multiply this one by 3. And if this is a 1 right here, I can multiply by 6. Now, it's n squared for these sides, so actually I better multiply this one by another n. So I'm going to multiply this one top and bottom by 3n. I'm going to multiply this other one by 6. So n minus 6 on the right doesn't change. But 3n times 1 is 3n, and plus your 6 times 1 gives you 6. So now we're trying to solve this, and I think I'm going to start by subtracting 3n from the right to the left. 1 minus 3n, in this case, is negative 2, minus 6 equals 6. Let's add the 6 from the left side to the right side. And that gives you negative 2n equals 12. And let's do one last step where you divide negative 2 over from the left to the right. And 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. Final answer. So that's not going to be extraneous because it doesn't cause me to divide by 0. The only excluded values in this is 0 itself, because if you were to plug in 0, the denominators would be 0. So I can kind of get you going on this one, but I want you to do more of the problem after that. 2x squared, all these have x squared, but this one needs a 2. So let's multiply top and bottom by 2, and you should get 4x plus 5 plus 1 equals 2, and then that's the smaller equation that you're solving, because once you get the denominators all to be the same, you don't need them anymore. So I'll do the number 7, the one on the left, and you can try number 8 on the right. This fraction is really 1 over 1, and so it looks like all of these have b, so I'm going to multiply by b top and bottom. Typing seems to be a little easier than doing that. So b plus 3 equals 1 minus b. And so this is what I'm going to solve. I think I am going to go back to the pen here, and I'm going to add b from this side to this side. b plus b gives me 2b plus 3 equals 1. I'm going to minus 2 from both sides. So I'm going to minus, it's actually minus 3, sorry. Minus 3 from both sides. And the one on the left will cancel. And I'm left with something like 2b equals negative 2. Because that's what's left on the left, 2b. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So let's finish this problem out by dividing by 2. And the one on the left will cancel. This is kind of difficult. And I get b equals negative 1. Final answer, b equals negative 1. So you can try number 8 on your own, but I can go ahead and get you started a little bit on that one. This one is over 1, and since these both have v, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by v. And now I get 1 plus v equals 4. And that is a one-step solve, so that shouldn't be too bad. Next ones we assigned were 13 and 14. And so I'm going to go ahead and set up the problem. So now I've got everything set up, and I'm trying to factor each part. And so I'm asking myself, what would multiply to be negative 12, but what would add to be the number right here in front of m, which is a negative 1. So things that multiply to be 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And I can actually use 3 and 4 here because negative 4 plus 3 is how you're going to get negative 1 while multiplying to be negative 12. So as I'm looking at what multiplies to be 32, I'm thinking about 8 and 4. And the only way to get to negative 12 is if they're both negative. So once I've factored it, I may want to stop and say, okay, m, if it was 4 or 8 for this denominator part, I would have a problem because that would make it equal 0, and you can't divide by 0. So I'm going to cancel these two out, and m plus 3 over m minus 4, this is my final answer. M plus 3 over m minus 8. And I'm done. So I want you to try the one on the right. Think about what multiplies to be negative 80 but adds to be 2, and what multiplies to be negative 70 but adds or subtracts to be 3. A few more here. I'm wanting to figure out what can cancel out with all my problems here. I've got 8 that goes into 8 and 48, so I think that would leave r minus 6. And up here, it looks like 9 would go into 9 and 36, and I'd be left with r plus 4. Okay. So I'm just changing the way that these two are written so I can find some things that cancel. R plus 4 cancels with r plus 4, and 9 and 8 don't really do anything to cancel out because they don't share any factors. So I'm left with 9 over 8 r minus 6. Now it doesn't say in the problem that I have to worry about extraneous solutions, but r cannot equal 6 because that would make the denominator 0. It also cannot equal negative 4 because this part that I canceled out right here, if negative 4 plus 4 is what I'm doing right there, I'd get 0 and it'd be an extraneous answer. So you can try number 16, and we'll check that one tomorrow in class. Last ones. So let's talk about number 17, and you can try number 18. When you're talking about division, it's a much easier problem to think about multiplying by the reciprocal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it where I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of the second one. So I'm flipping it and I'm changing the operation. Now I'm going to go ahead and factor this one. It should not switch. The one in the front does not change, so b plus 8 is still in the bottom here. And now I have b plus 8 here because 7 goes into both 7 and 56. So I may stop and talk about some restrictions. Division's a little harder with restrictions because you got to really look a lot of places. Negative 8 would make this part 0. And right here I have a denominator where if I had 9 as the value, as the input value, I would have 9 minus 9, and that would be not okay. So now I'm going to cancel the b plus 8s, and now I'm really left with this as my final answer. Okay, I just moved that 7 over here, by the way. So check out the homework for the ones I didn't do. We'll go over those tomorrow in class, and we'll pick up on the rest of the ones that we didn't do. Have a good night.